got some teachers in the chat. So this is more dedicated for the students. We will do another webinar for the teachers. There is a few slides about how the teachers can use the platform. However, that's more dedicated for the next webinar. Okay, cool. Moving in the chat. Can I use Danskai AI for homework? So yes, absolutely, you can use Danskai AI for homework. But you know, the idea behind Danskai AI is that you have a go first, using the knowledge of your Danish, and then use the tools available to you on Danskai AI to improve it, ask questions, and then revise from that. So when you do your homework, the Danish tutors will understand where you've made the corrections. So it's not just a kind of a copy and paste job from kind of ChatGPT or something like that. But yeah, no, absolutely, you can use it for homework. Okay, hi everyone. All right, let's make a start. So hello and welcome to Danskai AI webinar. I am the host, Bradley Sowter, so I am the founder of Danskai AI. And yeah, thank you for joining me. This webinar should take around about an hour, depending on questions and such forth. Hopefully it'll be quite swift. But this is just kind of an overview of the platform, what it is, how to use it, and then I'll give you a few examples using the platform, some kind of tips and tricks really. So yeah, Danskai AI, learn Danish without the scattered tools. I mentioned to people previously, if you've got any questions, just put it in the chat, and as we go through, I can kind of pick them up and go through. So yeah, welcome everyone. So yes, I'm Bradley Sowter. I'm the founder of Danskai AI. The platform was founded a year ago, today actually. I am an architect by trade, but also I'm an AI and computational design specialist. I moved to Denmark in April last year, and I hit the same language walls as many internationals face. So I joined a Danish class about a month after coming to Denmark. I did Duolingo and other apps previously, so I knew some words. And then coming into this, I went to class, and it was fine for a bit. But then, as you go through the stages, as you go through the exams, it gets a lot harder. Work pressures, life pressures, that does get a little bit more difficult. So I wanted a way to create a platform that is not too divergent from what you learn in class, and that it kind of helps you as a kind of an assistant teacher. But I want to preface that it doesn't replace a teacher as such. It kind of enhances your quality of learning, but also the teacher's ability to learn. But yes, I built Danskai AI to turn essentially a scattered effort, using different applications and different tools, into something that is combined and creates a compounding progress. So as you can see there, that's me looking a little bit confused about Danish, and hopefully Danskai AI is a little puzzle piece to improve that. So 3 things that you'll be able to learn to do tonight or this evening when using the platform is the ability to correct and explain. So see how Danskai AI corrects real Danish writing and explains every rule in plain English. And that is in real time. You'll also remember the mistakes that you made. So you'll see that the corrections land in your personal notebook, and you can revisit them and learn and revise from those mistakes, so you don't constantly make mistakes every time you go to and from class. And then to go further, so to use AI to help and improve the service, we have approved tutors and structured courses. So that is when you're not necessarily going to Danish class, but you are a self-studier. We provide services where you have structured courses and freelance tutors as well to help you along the way. So a quick question, and this whole webinar is more about kind of written-based exercises rather than oral or listening and such. So one poll that I want you to kind of write in the chat is, what is the hardest thing for you right now? Is it grammar rules, writing confidence, remembering corrections? Maybe if you're self-study, it's finding the right tutor, or exam prep, so PD3. If you want to write in the comments, I'll have a look. Is this relevant for PD2? Yes, PD2. You can use this platform as well. It's not necessarily catered towards PD1. So as long as you have English as a first or second language, and you can speak, you know it fluently, then yeah, you can use this platform for PD2 and PD3. Okay, yeah. All right, cool. So it's a vast mix. I think it's 1, 2, and 3 is kind of the main ones. Um, Exam prep, we definitely help with that, and that comes back into more the kind of the writing and the reading comprehension that comes through the platform. But yeah, I think it was an even split between 1, 2, and 3, which is interesting. I think, writing Danish with confidence is a big thing, especially when things like inversion and things like that. It's quite difficult to remember, especially in exam circumstances. Um, and yeah, so that's great. So I know that there is some kind of areas and problems and solutions really about how to improve. So yeah, so what does Danskai do? What do we solve? Um, so I felt that Danish learning feels a little bit scattered. So you can translate in one place, whether that's DeepL, Google Translate, which is on one tab, or maybe it's on your phone. And then you ask AI in another system like a chatbot, about kind of grammar rules. So that could be ChatGPT, that could be Claude, Copilot if you have that. But it never kind of collects all together. So, you might translate one thing and it might be an idiom, so it doesn't translate correctly, and then you have to move over, and then it's not saved. You might have to manually add something to your Anki app or another kind of flashcard application. So there's nothing that's kind of collected to understand areas that you've got wrong or areas of improvement. And then you've got, your notes. So you might do handwritten notes, you might use Microsoft Word, Google Docs, or something like that. And then textbooks. So, the idea that you have online iBooks, ebooks, you've got physical textbooks. So, everything is very scattered and really hard to kind of go together into a kind of cohesive kind of wholeness of learning capabilities. So that's what Danskai AI tries to do essentially. So as we say, one place built for Danish. Um, and this is the issue, right? So you wrote the message, or you wrote text, and you still don't know if it sounded right. So when you do homework, or when you email the community for a certain reason, these fragmented tools create hesitation and repeated mistakes. So it kind of erodes your confidence. And I don't know about you, I use ChatGPT when I first learnt Danish. Um, and you'd write your Word document, you think you've got it, correct, you paste it into ChatGPT, and then it says, nearly there, but these are the grammar mistakes. It's a full list. So it doesn't build you with confidence, and you want something that can go. Do you want to try that again? Do you want to? You're nearly there. So we want to create a system that challenges you, but also helps you along the way, rather than just giving you the answers where you don't necessarily learn from, and also build your confidence. And as I said, I hit the same wall. So after relocating to Denmark, I have all the different tools, the textbooks, and I still felt a little bit stuck. And this is a picture of me here at Aarhus Soup, where I shared my story and what I was trying to build. So this idea, with a kind of macro scale, that half the people that move to Denmark leave after 5 years, and there's some data behind it, but it's not really conclusive of why that is. But I do feel one of the real factors is kind of adoption and cultural adoption. How does Denmark feel like home? And you can say that language is one of them. So being able to kind of create a platform that could help um, these internationals feel a little bit more at home, um, then that will help. And it's the other thing is, I think it was 50% of Danish school participants don't complete PD3. So that's another reason why I wanted to create this platform to help these people. And you know, we're all adults. We've moved to Denmark, and we've all got different commitments. So we might not be able to study Danish six hours a week. Some people are looking after children. Some people are doing overtime at work. So we need a way of supplementing our Danish learning from class with something that is kind of like an assistant tutor, that we're not just walking alone when we miss a class or two. So what does Danskai AI do? So essentially, we write, we understand, we remember, and then we go further. So that's the steps. So if you imagine doing a piece of homework at the moment, it will be we write, we either submit, and then get our tutor's feedback. But that kind of there's a kind of a grey middle zone, and people normally fill that with either translating everything using Google Translate or using ChatGPT to make corrections for you. So we want to, essentially put in the 2, 3, and 4 into your repertoire before then going to number 5, which would be kind of submitting to your tutor. So, essentially creating a learning lesson within that homework. So support between classes, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. So between your classroom and your next lesson, we want the student to essentially practice what they've learned. We want the teachers to actually learn that data, understand what the students are getting wrong in class, but also with their homework, and be able to adapt their lesson plans to improve that. So for the students, instant feedback. So unlike ChatGPT, where you have to paste a prompt, and then you have to ask, is this grammar wrong? Is it spelling wrong? You get that in real time. Very similar to other products like Grammarly, but this is very much catered for Danish as a second language. You get clear explanations, and hopefully you get more confidence in your practice. And yes, so in a supportive assistant in the background. So we also have a chatbot for more of the kind of specific questions. And the benefits of that, and I'll show you in a bit, is that Kai, which is also class AI, essentially always reads your notes, so you don't have to be copying and pasting text into a chatbot. So you can just say, question 2. My answer, was that grammatically correct? And it will understand where you're coming from without having to actually paste that bit of text. Because of that, it will also understand where that piece of text is. So if there is any beneficial information, we can also, put that data back into that text for you to learn later. And we do that via footnotes, and I can show you that as well. So let me show you on real writing. I'll show you a screenshot, and then we'll go onto the website itself, and I'll show you how it works. But yeah, so messy text, kind of what you'd already write. The corrections and notebook. I'll show that in real time. This one here is actually me trying to read Harry Potter. I'm still on the first Harry Potter, so I've got a long way to go. So this is actually me copy and pasting the text from what I'm reading and actually understanding what's going on. So you'll see on the right, what you'll find interesting is slinger evalsen, right? And when I was reading Harry Potter at this time, I was very kind of confused. So as you can see at the bottom, I pasted that into Google Translate. The English translation is swinging in the roller, which kind of confused me even more. But what that actually means is, something out of the ordinary. So what you'll see at the top here, that is all the real-time feedback that Danskai AI gives you. So if you want to click on the yellow, it will give you a kind of clarifying whether it's spelling or idioms or some sort. So straight away, we actually know a little bit more about what we're reading. And orange is cultural. So you can imagine when it says director, I assume that it will say something to do with the flat hierarchy in Danish companies. So you don't have to paste everything in. And if you've written a sentence, you can quickly see areas that you need improvement on. And it's all color coded, which you can kind of turn on and off. So if I stop sharing, cool. Hopefully you can see this now. Yep. All right, cool. So I've just copied a piece of text, which I'm going to paste in here, but let's quickly show you the interface. So once you're logged in, this is my account. You can see down here my name, and you're greeted with a number of things on the left hand side. So the main things we're going to focus on here is home, my journey, and lesson notes. So in home, this essentially is like a dashboard. It will give you an understanding of today's plan. It will give you a word on the day, which is based on your vocab bank, your notes, where you're at, and what have you done in your last 7 days? What have you struggled with? What have you learned? And the opportunity to find tutors, and also your readiness for an exam. As you can see, it's at 0% because I haven't set my level in the settings, which I really should do. Okay, cool. So, and if you want to go to tutorials, this will give you a kind of a basic overview and tips and tricks, so you can always go there. So if we go into lesson notes, out pops my notes. Essentially, this is where you can keep all of your notes. So if you're doing, maybe it's module 1, you can create a folder that says module 1, got module 3 there. Or if you've got any books, you can see here, I've done some Harry Potter. And you can do this by clicking this plus. This will give you the create new folder button. I just want to check, am I sharing my screen correctly? 1 second. Let me stop sharing for one. Okay, side by side. That'll be better. Okay, sorry about that. All right, cool. So adding the plus will give you a folder. You can either route it into another folder or you can create it at the top. So I created one earlier, which is webinars, and then you can create a new note here. So when you press the options, you can then put it into a folder. So you can put webinars and you can just type what you want. There's prefixes here if you want to keep all your notes tidy. And then depending on what you want to do, you can do focus mode, guided mode, or full mode. For the purpose of this, we'll do full mode so you can see everything that we can do. So we can do kind of continue there. And we can create a note, but I've already created one here. Cool. So once you've done that, you'll get a note. So you can start writing, anything you want. This is exactly the same as Google Docs or Microsoft Word in a sense. If you know the shortcuts on your keyboard to do the additional vowels, then that's great. If you don't, we've just got this little bit at the bottom where you do a short click for the lowercase, then hold for the uppercase. So that's quite a nice way to do that there. We've also got a voice input, and also if you've got any kind of questions and answers, quick tick or X so you know where you are. So I've just pasted in, an example text, and normally when you do this, it will take a few minutes to come up. Oh, there you go, straight away. So this will come up with different kind of grammar mistakes, right? So this, if you click on highlight here, it will come up with all the different types of mistakes that we can do. So vocabulary, grammar, spelling, examples, cultural, and exercises. So if we were to click on here, for example, so cultural, here we go. So this will just talk about hygge, vulval, and cycling. So this just gives you an understanding of something that is very fundamental to Danish society. It just adds a little bit of kind of finesse to it. However, if we go towards the grammar, if we highlight over the top, just don't click on anything, it will tell you what you've done wrong, and you can do the correction straight away there, or you can click on it and it will tell you why is this here. So it's an adjective, so we need a T ending, and you can either ignore it, which in this case we shouldn't do, or we can accept it. So let's accept. And now it'll give you a learning moment, right? So, similar examples, and you can either go skip practice or you can do practice now. We'll skip practice now for the time being, but practice now is essentially gives you a little lesson in when to use the V, when to use the T. But yeah, let's just skip the practice for now. So as you can see, straight away, that text has now been changed to the correct form. And so something that you should know is if you're reading a text, so this was not our writing, but this was our reading, and we didn't necessarily understand everything. So let's try to translate something. We've got in-text popovers. So if we were to double click on Leia, for example, you'll see straight away that the translation is teacher. Now, we can go to translate and we can insert the translation there. Yeah. But what's the difference between this and Google Translate? Well, because we've translated the text, this means, well, it tells the platform that we don't really know what this word is. Sorry, I'm just having a drink. So that word will then, so the Danish word and the English translation will then be sent to your vocab bank for later retrieval. So it kind of goes, okay, we didn't know this, and we're going to test you on it later, so you do know it. It also gets migrated into your lesson plan as well. So when you do kind of quizzes and notes, you'll be tested on that. And whilst we're at it, you might be able to see that we've got different things here. So not just the translate tool, but we've got footnotes, speaking, flag, and also hiding things. So if you want to memorize things, you can hide it, and then if you say, for example, you're doing a speaking exam and you've wrote down some text and you want to kind of remember it, this is a useful tool to hide. We've also got dictionary, which will give you the org class of it, the definition, the adjective, and you can also bring up the full dictionary on this. So this is great. If you was to look up a noun, for example, so if we look up kartoffel, you'll see it will come up with like this is an een word, and then when we go to the dictionary, it will tell you here. So that's quite a good tool. We've also got thesaurus for verbs and formatting as well. So if there's anything that you need to highlight, we've got it all there. So that's the kind of the popover tool. You can do speak, footnotes. Now, I spoke about footnotes. So this is where we kind of move over to kind of Kai, so the class AI. Let me kind of just collapse this so I can get to here. Just note, this is going to be very, very similar to what you see. However, you won't have the viewer student here. That will just be removed. So we can type anything here. Just imagine it's ChatGPT or Claude. So we can say, what is wrong with yeah. So we can just send that. And as you can see, we've got use note context, so it will read your note automatically. I don't have to paste everything in, and then I just send that off, and then you say here. So you might need to include there to maintain the proper word, and you can see here that that's correct. So we can add this as a footnote. And what that does is, because it's anchored, it understands where the footnote is. Now, when we highlight, it comes up with what was wrong. So all of this, so all these corrections, all of this chat is all put into a database to understand, where you've got wrong, what you've done wrong. And you can do this the same in text as well. So you can highlight things, for example, and you can ask here. So you can just say, how can I improve this text? So I've just done a random example, but if there is anything that is interesting to you, so you can see now we've got an improvement, which is dedicated to that little bit because we've highlighted it, and we can also add that as a footnote, and it will pick up because it's anchored to it. I hope that makes sense. Has anyone got any questions so far? Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that. So, if you're right, if this is distracting for you when you write, you can click on the highlight button, and essentially you can hide all toggles. So that's what I'd probably recommend you guys to do, is have something where, you know, you've you've written something and you don't get that feedback straight away. It is running in the background, but it's probably best to kind of challenge yourself. You can also close the Kai bot as well to put it on the side. But no, thank you for bringing that up. Whilst we're on the topic, there's also ways that you can kind of toggle the complexity within Danskai. So the lookup mode is when you double click or highlight certain things. So if we were to highlight this is the translate mode, right? If you was to change this to quiz first, this essentially is saying, I'm not going to make it as easy for you. You probably know what this says, but let's just kind of give you a couple of options and you choose the best. So, for example, I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, I'm not sure what Svart means. Does that mean Swedish? Is Danish is very much Swedish? I've seen that word before. So what I can do is I can highlight this. And what it does essentially loads, it goes, okay, what do you think this phrase is talking about? And I'm like, okay, well, it's definitely not Swedish. What is it? Well, maybe I think it's difficult or hard. So I'll click on that, and yes, that is correct. So we know Danish is very difficult. So it's just a way of kind of to test you. So rather than AI kind of giving it to you easy, this is a way of actually making it a little bit harder and more challenging. The other thing is recall first, and this is very much where explain first is metalinguistic feedback, which is when we click on here. So this is the metalinguistic feedback. So it actually tells you where does there come in regards to the pattern and similar examples. So this really explains what it is. If we were to change this to recall first, it's kind of like quiz first. It will say, actually, we think you know these grammar rules. Let's give it a try. So if we click on this, you'll see here, there's a word order issue here. Can you fix it? So it's kind of like a mini quiz. So, let's try to put it in. And then check answer. Correct. Cool. And then, reinforcement. And then you can have a go there. Again, let's skip. And then we've corrected it and we've put it in. So yeah, that's how you use the highlights. If you've started writing and the highlights don't come up, I'd recommend just clicking on the reanalyze tool. So if we go through the buttons, have we got any more questions? Yeah. So like I said, if you click the reanalyze, then it will show it. Okay. Yeah. Right. Cool. So yeah, so you've got a guide here, extensions. One thing which is great is that you can copy and paste things. So for example, if I was to delete this and delete our footnotes because we don't need those anymore. So, I just copied this from our notepad, right? So if we was to just bring this down here a little bit. So say this was an ebook or iBook, right? And you can't copy and paste it for a certain reason, it doesn't allow you to do so. What you can do is go to your snipping tool, and maybe I'll actually just do the text. So you copy, Control C, and then you do Control V here, right? And it says image detected. What do you want to do? So if it's an image, you can insert as an image. But if we want to extract that text, we can do the OCR. So this is really good if you've got textbooks online, or if your teacher is doing a webinar like this. You can use this to get your text straight onto the platform. If it's not on your screen, i.e. if you've got a physical book, what you can do, if you go to input and go scan QR code, you can either drag and drop a PDF that's on your system, whether that's like I said, a PDF, a JPEG. We also support MP3 files, so if you've got audio files you want to put on. We can also use your phone. So if you scan this QR code, it will take you to a website, and essentially you just take a picture or upload a photo of your textbook or something on the board, something like that, and then it does the same thing. It will do an OCR scrape, and then it'll put it on your platform. So it's a really easy way to get things on here. So yeah, the import tool is really good. Yes, so if you have got any textbooks, yeah, you can use this. You can put this on your platform. So whatever you've bought, whatever your teacher's got, then you can use that. We don't physically provide textbooks on the platform because of the royalties, but if you're in class and you're using those textbooks, then yeah, you can use those. You can screenshot it. The whatever's on this platform is for you. It's in your own environment, so we don't have access to what you're writing. You can. I'll give you an example. You can share your notes with other students. So you can see here, I was sharing my notes with Nina. So that's a kind of a collaborative service, but you have to opt in to share your notes with someone. And similarly with your teacher, right? But no, so you can't put on kind of a textbook and then other people go in and read it. This is purely for yours. Okay. All right. Cool. So let's quickly go through the rest of the layout before moving on. So we've gone through reanalyze, save, pretty pretty standard. Let's go to finish and earn XP. Also export as we mentioned. So export PDF, Word, text, or whatever files you want. So let's finish. And essentially, this will analyze your text. So what you've done right, what you've done wrong. So as you can see, appropriate use of common Danish cultural references like hygge and vulvul, which I still can't pronounce. Areas for improvement, but so as you can see, svart versus show. And yeah, so and revision tips. So this is kind of like an overall gist of like what we've picked up and what your improvements are. I I could go through this, but essentially it's a quiz, kind of like a Babbel quiz based on your lesson notes. You can skip this, and you can go back to that at a later date, and I'll show you how. This is more for kind of teachers and yourself, like how did you find the session? A little bit about what it was. So let's do that. It was writing, and you can just say, let's schedule the quiz for a little bit later. So yeah, if you do finish lesson, now you can see that not only does it give you a lesson summary, the key concepts that what we learned, the important learning points, but also if we come down now here, we've also got tags, right? So we're learning about culture, we're learning. So yeah, so that is kind of your lesson notes, and how to use it. So we can save that. But then what is very interesting is all of these learning doesn't just stop there, right? That all gets digested and puts into My Journey. So what is My Journey? So imagine it's kind of Duolingo, but tailor-made for you. So all of these lesson notes, so every time you put in information, you will get feedback from it. So you have a kind of a journey, right? A lesson curated, which is like the basics: restaurants, leisure, weather, travel, and things like that. But we also have personalized support, so based on your lesson notes. Similarly, words to review, right? So all of your vocab is all here, and you can review it straight away. All of this, your notes and your journey can be accessed on your phone. Cool. So just a quick poll. So what would you use this for? Kind of work writing, class homework, exam prep? And whilst you do that, let me see if there's any more questions coming in. Could this make the students lazy? Well, I guess it really depends. It depends how you use it. If students simply copy corrections, then obviously they'll learn less. Very similar to kind of ChatGPT. With kind of like the translate tool, the idea is that you can highlight words for a certain amount of words. Maybe it's a sentence, maybe a single word or a phrase to get the translations. But obviously, people can just highlight the entire text. We don't want people to do that, but we can't stop them. And I think that is us as people understanding, how do we use it. So it's exactly the same as using Google Translate or ChatGPT, but you need to decide how you want to use it. Why can't you just use Grammarly or Google Translate? So you can, and I advise that you should use all the tools in your arsenal. I'd say that all of those tools aren't built for the Danish language, and doesn't have your lessons curated in a certain way or learn from your lessons. So if you do something on Google Translate, you won't learn tomorrow. You won't necessarily revise from that. Can Danskai guarantee I will pass PD3? Short answer, no. This is an aid to help you, but you obviously still need to do the work. So will Danskai tell me exactly what level I am? Okay, so I'm guessing that you're a self-studier. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So when you sign up, you will get a kind of an onboarding service, and it will ask you to answer a few questions. From that, it will give you an advisory of what level you're at. Obviously, if you're taking you're in Danish school and you know what level you're at, you can override that. But if you're self-studying, you're going towards PD2 or PD3, you can take that and it will give you an estimation of where you're at. Can it replace Frog School? No, it can't replace Frog School. So the idea of this is that it's a support layer, so it helps students practice, but the idea is that it won't replace teachers, and we don't want it to replace teachers. Essentially, it's a complementary tool. Is this only for internationals in Denmark? No, it can be for Danes who struggle with the language. However, it is focused on English input, Danish output. So it really depends. Okay, cool. So the poll. I see. Okay, so the majority of you have put class homework. Not many people put work writing. I guess that's because your main work is in English. But cool. Let's quickly move on. So yeah, so the app didn't work properly. However, this is what it should look like, and I'll put it in the chat. But essentially, this is a daily journey in your pocket. So whatever you put into your lesson notes will then be put forward into the app, and then you can learn on the go. So it's not like other apps where it's divergent from your learning. This is very much tailored towards it. And yeah, as I mentioned, the teacher stays central to Danskai, and it makes the lessons more targeted. So cool. So Danskai is shaped by active beta community, international students. So as you can see here, this was the first beta users back in November. And essentially we're needing kind of feedback loops to drive weekly product improvements. And the beta access is still open, so in exchange to feedback. So things like, for example, searching for certain words in the lesson notes, that's something that we need to improve upon. So 3 habits that actually move the needle. So this is what you need to do to improve your Danish using this platform. So use real writing. So paste real messages, work notes, homework tasks. Revisit your notebook. So don't just accept the corrections, but go back and look at what you've done wrong. Do your personalized lessons, your vocab bank, and work on those mistakes. And then combine AI with also human interaction. So use your tutors for the exams and higher stakes writing, and then the in-between zones. This is where Danskai can be used. And yeah, try Danskai on your own with your writing. And yeah, so I think we're pretty much on the hour. So have a go, see what you think, and thank you very much.